Hi everybody, this is what we're making today. It's a floral Christmas card, just using three colours, so craft card, white card and gold mirri card. So I started with the stamens. I realised I didn't have any gold stamens. I've got these white ones, which I decided to colour with the gold pen. I'd done both ends, because obviously you fold them in half. There was quite a lot to do, so I am going to look for some gold ones. And then I want my card to be 7 by 5 3/4. I'd make a lot of my cards that size. I wanted a top fold card, and I've made the base from kraft card, so it needs to be 11.5 inches by 7 inches. And then the white card layer is 1/4 inch less, which is 6.5 inches by 5 3/4, and the mirri mat is 6 3/4 by 5 1/4, and then that brown strip is 6 3/4 by 5 1/4, by 2 inches. And then I cut 3 of these strips from white cardstock to go under the strip of the craft card. Then I cut my florals from these Rose Garden traditional rose flowers from Crafter's Companion, using the Crafter's Companion natural white flower forming foam, which I use with heat so that I can shape them. First of all, what I do is, I originally was only going to do one large flower, but I end up doing 2 large and 3 small. So I cut 2 of the large die, 2 of the medium die and 2 of the small die for the large flower, and 3 of the small die for the small flowers. I colour the centres with this gold ink, and then I heat them on my mini Cricut heat press, and then whilst they're cooling I press them in the middle into the foam with my ball tool on both sides of the flower, which I find gives me the shape that I'm after. I do this to all of the layers, and then I will glue the layers together using tacky glue. Whilst I'm gluing them together, I again will press them into the foam, but only on the one side, obviously. It will help to adhere the glue, and secondly it helps to still keep their shape. When I'm layering them up with the glue, I offset each stage so that all the petals at the end aren't on top of each other. You can use hot glue to stick the layers together. However, I find when I use hot glue, it's a lot thicker and it's quite difficult then to get the stamens through. So I found that if I use tacky glue, it holds them enough for me to then put them together and push the stamens through. So to push the stamens through, I use my pokey tool, go through the middle of all of the layers together, and then I use this thin, it's floral wire, and I put it in the middle of the stamens, fold the stamens in half, and then it helps me to push and pull the stamens through the hole that I've just made with the pokey tool. And then just kind of make sure they're in as much as I want them to be, and in the right shape. Reshape the flowers, pull the wire out, which I can straighten and reuse for another another time. I will then cut the length of the stamens off. I'll leave a little bit poking out the bottom, and then I will hot glue that, the little bit that I've left, so that the stamens don't poke back through and they stay where I put them. And that tends to hold them in place. You don't need a lot. I just literally put a little bit and then sort of spread it around with the glue gun. Just enough to kind of set them in place, really. I make the other flowers and do all the same stages off screen, so that, you know, the video's not hours and hours long for you. I will then cut some foliage using this Sizzix die set. I use 3 of the florals, foliage leaves. This first one I cut in white, the second one I cut in white also, but I then ink them with the ink that's left on the door bar that I put in the centre of the flowers, and then that last one I'll cut in gold mirri. I'll do 2 of each for this set. I then fold my craft card base, and I want the card to be 5 3/4, so I mark it at 5 3/4 with the scoreboard. I then add my mats and layers, white layer first and then mirri gold second, because I'm working with the mirri gold at the top. And then whilst there's any glue, if there is any that seeps out a little bit, just go around it with a cloth, and it helps to burnish it down as well. Then I'll attach those 3 kind of like edgeables, and add them to the underside of the craft card strip, which is the 6 3/4 by the 5 1/4. And I'll add those to the underside of that. Just make sure you get them straight, and they don't quite reach the bottom, which is why I cut 3, so that I use part of the 3rd one for both sides, so that it runs from one end to the other. Just making sure I get them straight, really. It does mean that on either side you have got kind of only part of a circle or half circle that come out, but that's fine, I didn't mind that. And then I will stick this onto the mirri card using double-sided tape, but to give me a little bit of wiggle room in case I needed it, plus it's going onto mirri card, I also use tacky glue. I don't put any glue on the white card, because I don't feel that I needed to. As long as the brown card's stuck down, that's fine. And then I'll attach the flowers and hold them down just to let them set, and then I will add on the foliage, but I glue the foliage using tacky glue. I did try to use 3D glue gel, but I didn't quite get on with it very well, so I then went to the hot glue gun, and then obviously the foliage I've added with some tacky glue, and I've just added the tacky glue onto the ends of the foliage because I don't want it all to be stuck down. If any of it was sticking up too much, then I'll just add a tiny bit under one of the leaves or something and just anchor that down as well, which I do with the gold ones actually, because they stick up a little bit too much and they're white on the underside, and obviously I don't want people to see that. So I do feel that they need a little bit of glue, and I just put it on one of the leaves, and then it holds it down nicely and I don't need to worry. And then I'm making a Christmas card, so I choose this. This is my new sentiments. I've just bought them from Hunky Dory, and it's, the large word is Christmas, and then you've got some small sentiments that you can put anywhere on the card, you know, over the top or anything like that. And I've chosen With Love at Christmas. My original plan was to do the Christmas in white, the With Love at in the gold mirri, and have the With Love at going across the Christmas. However, when I placed it on the card, because it's going on the mirri with love at Christmas, with love at, because it goes on the mirri, although there's the white Christmas between, it's still got a bit lost. So I decided to trim it down into 3 separate words and then place it on the craft card at the top there, and then still keep the Christmas in the white on the gold mirri at the bottom, and it worked perfectly fine. You know, you can use your sentiments as and how, you know, feels fit for you and works with your card. You know, that's the joys of them. You can break them up and cut them down, and so that's what I done. I've adhered them all with tacky glue. I'm just seeing if the at will work going across the Christmas, and I decided that I didn't like it. And then I thought, would they all fit on the right hand side there? And I was like, no. So I'm playing around with it, and then I decide, yeah, with on the left and love at on the right, and then Christmas at the bottom. So then I add lots of tacky glue all over the wording, and then I'll just tap it off on the back of my hand just to double check that there's not any, you know, bits that are gonna spill out and make a mess of my card at this stage, because that would be rather upsetting. I do the same with the Christmas and use my tea ruler to try and get it as straight as I can. And again, just tap it off on the back of my hand to make sure that it's not going to squidge out everywhere and make a mess. Especially on mirri card, that would not be good right now because the card's pretty much finished. And then on the inside I used some white card, and I've cut it just below, probably about 3mm below the card base measurements, and I've glued it in the middle, and then stuck that down in the middle and put a little bit on either side. No, before I done that, sorry, I apologise, I forgot about these. I used the Hunky Dory vintage gemstones, and I've used the large one, the middle one and the small one, and just placed them on the card there. I felt it needed a little something. And then I've done the centre of the card, and then on the one side of the card I'm going to add these two as matte and layers onto that white card base there, which I've added inside, and then I'll be adding these two. I'm not doing it yet because I'm going to be stamping a sentiment on the white bit. Obviously you can't write very easily on gold mirri, so I put another layer on top of that, but I wanted to have the gold and have the inside and the outside kind of matching. But I make to sell, so just in case somebody, you know, wants it for mum, sister or whatever, I can then add the sentiment that suits them best. And then I need a box envelope to put the card in, so I use the Crafter's Companion envelope box maker, and basically you get the size of your card. I go slightly bigger all the time, and I'm going for 7.5 by 6.5, and that tells me I need the card to be cut to 11.5 inches square and scored at H on 2 sides, which are opposite each other, and scored at 1 and 4, and then on K on the other 2 sides and scored at 1 and 4, which gives me the 1 inch depth. I then use this to round off the corners for me, corner punch, because envelopes don't have sharp edges. I then score and burnish all of the score lines. You then need to cut each corner down to the second line, and then I cut it at a slight angle as well. Looks a bit more professional, fits in better. And then I cut a very small little tiny bit off the top so it's not pointed. And then I will use 3mm red liner tape because it's nice and strong on the 2 sides, and I use the 3mm because you kind of need to measure when you're making your envelopes how much of the tape you're going to see, and it was quite a thin gap, so I went for the 3mm, and I wanted it to stay intact, so I used the red liner tape. And then over the top of the red liner tape, just so I've got a little bit of wriggle room, I use some clow all-purpose, just so that, you know, because red liner tape sticks. Although you do get a little bit of manoeuvre, but I'm not sure whether I got that because I added the clow, but I do need to kind of unstick it and move it a little bit. And then you sort of bring in both sides so that you know that you're putting, gluing it, you know, in the right place, so you haven't got it all wonky, and which is easier said than done because you need an extra pair of hands really, but I manage it, as we all do, I'm sure. And then I bring the top flap down just to make sure that, you know, it's going to fit right. I do the same for the other side. And then that's the envelope done. I'll put tape on the top nearer the time once it's sold, or, you know, I use it, whichever comes first. If I know it's not going through the post, I shall probably, and it's going to a customer, I shall probably decorate the front of the envelope a little bit so that it's not just a plain white envelope, because it's always nice to see a little bit of decoration when you're giving it to somebody special. But that will all depend on who's it going to, whether it's me using it or, you know, make sure it's not going through the post, that sort of thing. Just so that it's got a bit of something nice really on the front that will coordinate with the card and the inside of the card, and then obviously make sure the card's going to fit, which it does nicely. And that's it for today. I hope it's inspired you, hope you like it. Once I know it fits, I burnish down the glue just to make sure it's really well glued. And yeah, so I hope you like it, I hope it inspires you. Thanks ever so much for watching. Please do subscribe and like. It lets YouTube know that you like my videos, and it'll help to grow my channel, and I really, really appreciate it. Have a lovely weekend, have a lovely week ahead, stay warm, take care, and I will see you next week for the next video. Bye for now.